Hi, I'm Herbert Chavez, and I'm going to talk about media framing theory. I chose this topic because I have passion for the media. I will give you some concepts, but above all, I will use many examples to facilitate understanding and make it more fun. Let's get started. Framing as a theory of mass communication referred to how the media packages and present information to the public. According to the theory, the media highlights certain events and then places them within a particular context to encourage or discourage certain interpretations. Todd Gittrin, American sociologist, political writer, novelist, and cultural commentator, was the first to apply the term framing mass communication when he criticized the way CBS made the student movement of the 1960s viewed as unimportant. Media depictions frame events in ways that constrain how audiences can interpret this event. This can happen by different features of the story headlines, audiovisual component, metaphors, and the way the story is told, just to name a few. Media framing is frequently seen as an extension of the agenda setting theory. It uses prioritization. The media can stimulate the decision-making process by highlighting some aspect and eliminating others. Okay, let's talk a little bit about agenda setting in media framing. Agenda setting is the process whereby the mass media determine what we think and worry about. On the other hand, media framing not only influence how we think about something, but they influence the way we think about it. And that is an important difference. Okay, look at these two pictures. Here we can see an example of a good frame and a bad frame. It all depends on what the media wants to tell us about the character. In this case, about the Hillary Clinton. Let's see some differences between agenda setting and framing. In agenda setting, the journalists select the most newsworthy topics. In framing, the journalists choose the way in which the news is brought or presented. Agenda setting tells the audience what to think about, and framing affects the audience how to think about. And agenda setting is more concerned about the content, and framing is concerned about structure. I'm going to show you more examples in the next slides. In a sense, framing theory suggests that how something is presented to the audience, called the frame, influences the choices people make about how to process that information. Frames are abstractions that work to organize or structure message meaning. In this way, the media exercise a selective influence over how people view reality. In general, media framing uses words, images, phrases, and presentation styles. We can see here three different examples, three different magazines, People, The Week, and Rolling Stone. Same character, in this case President Donald Trump, three different views, and some make Trump look good, others not so much. Depends of the frame of the media. Okay, let's talk about some assumptions of the media framing theory. The following concepts are associated with framing. Number one, journalists select the topics they will present and decide how they will present it. This determines the issues audiences think about and how they think about them. Number two, audiences interpret information through their own frames. Audiences' frame may overlap or contradict the media frames. Number three, frames are reinforced every time they are evoked, whether positively or negatively. And number four, frame building is a systematic process that occurs over time. Framing theory also says that these processes happen in different stages. For example, company framing. This is when journalists or reporters establish how exactly they are going to inform the public. The interests of the company that finances the news play a big role here, and so do the reporter's personal interest. News framing: what say and how it's said. Reporters figure out where to put emphasis, how much information they are going to give, and the way they will interpret each aspect. Audience framing: how the other two frames interact with people's pre-existing worldviews or frames. The basic goal here is for the first two to line up with it. Okay, how can we frame in the news? Through four different approaches. Number one is selection. Media select and use and basically prioritize something. The second is emphasis. Media put more highlight on some issues. The third one is exclusion. Take out some issue from the agenda. And the last one is elaboration, occurring when we provide a solid explanation for what is happening. Okay, let's see now some framing techniques. Metaphor: to frame a conceptual idea through comparison to something else. Stories, myth, and legends: to frame a topic via narrative in a vivid way. Tradition, rituals, ceremonies, important cultural customs. Slogan or catchphrases: to frame an object with a catchy phrase to make it more memorable and relatable. Artifact: objects with intrinsic symbolic value, a visual cultural phenomenon that hold more meaning than the object itself. Contrast: to describe an object in terms of what it's not. And spin: to represent a concept in such a ways as to convey a value judgment, positive or negative, that may not be immediately apparent, to create an inherent bias by definition. Okay, we are going to see some examples. In this example, in this first one, we can see in these two covers two different frames related to the consequences of the 9/11 event. In the first one, we can see a white girl with a face that causes empathy and the headline, "The Children of 9/11." It's a good frame. And on the other side, we can see a picture of a black boy with a serious face and relating it to the other side, the bad one, of Bin Laden. Do you think that this was premeditated by the media? In the following example, we can see two different frames for the Orlando shooting. The first is focusing on the NRA, the National Rifle Association, and how easy it is to get weapons in this country. And the second one, the second framing, is more focused on the conflict between ISIS and the USA. Same event, two different frames. This is an example that we all know, the case of O.J. Simpson. Framing the first with the intention of making O.J. look even darker or guilty, the difference between the two covers is clearly visible. It's important to mention that the different frameworks are aimed at different audiences. In this case, Fox Latino frames this event as the approval of a scholarship for undocumented students, and Fox News for Americans frames the same thing, the same event, the same news as something negative, more expensive for illegals. What the white audience want to hear. Same event, different frames. We all remember this triumphant image against Saddam Hussein's regime. But what does this image prove? Nothing but the fact that thousands of people were against him. However, they didn't speak for all of Iraq. That's how the media presented it to us. We also learned later on that the nuclear weapons factory never even existed, and that many Iraqis were against the invasion. Despite all that, many people still probably look at the whole thing from that heroic lens. The media's frame became their own. The basic idea here is that the media shows us a reality that has been framed. In other words, it only shows us certain things and hides others. Stephen Jay Gould says, when people learn no tools of judgment and merely follow their hopes, the seeds of political manipulation are sown. Framing effect. Framing affects audiences in startling ways. Aside from restricting the information by which people judge events, framing can motivate people to make riskier decisions than they otherwise would. Researchers have found that when problems are expressed negatively to imply a loss, people tend to choose the riskiest option for solving the problem. Problems framed positively result in safer decisions. Evaluating media framing theory. This theory has a good scope since it can be applied to different situations and different areas such as politics, entertainment, sport, advertising, and marketing. It has a heuristic value as it helps to learn, discover, or solve a problem. Choices can also be worded in a way that highlights the positive or negative aspect of the same decision, and thus incite the heuristic effect to come to the fore. Let's talk about gain and loss frames. Gain frames or positive messages means what you have to gain by making a decision, while loss frames or negative messages identify what you will lose by making a certain decision. For example, exercising regularly can help you lose weight and keep your heart healthy. Gain frame. Or, if you don't exercise, you may gain weight and end up with heart disease. Loss frame. Okay, let's talk about criticism of framing theory. Framing builds mistrust against the media, since with the emergence of more media, we can see other perspectives and compare them. Framing creates a gap between the truth and the public awareness by creating a point of view. Framing also distorts truth through the alteration or manipulation of the news. Frames limit debate by placing vocabularies and metaphors that can be used in news that is used by all public. Framing is becoming less as new media is developing and giving people an opportunity to think about same topic with different point of view. Framing constructs a social reality and affect the choices and decisions made by people. And this, from my point of view, is the main objective of this theory. And abusing this resource can be dangerous. Let's see one more example. We all know the case of Jeffrey Epstein. This is a picture in which he and Donald Trump appeared 20 years ago. During an interview, the anchor of the American Fox News, discussed the case with attorney Jordan Merson. For some reason, Fox Channel cropped the picture, eliminating Donald Trump from the scene. Was this something premeditated so as not to link him to the new president in this case? Fox Channel apologized for that, saying that it was a mistake. We can say that framing is a powerful tool, since it generates perceptions, creates images, alters the way we make decisions. It is at this point that some questions arise for us to discuss later. The first question is, what do you think you can do to recognize the different frames in the media? The second question is, what is the relationship between the development of critical thinking and media framing theory? And the third question is, how do these different frames affect the way you think and act or behave? Let's talk in the discussion room. Before finishing, I want you to watch this video, where we can see the power that the media has using framing. Enjoy the video.
Little pig, let us in! It's the police!
The third little pig is now being taken into custody, so the spotlight is once again shone on the grey area of homeowners' rights rights to protect their properties.
This isn't right. The three little pigs are the victims.
Blew down 2 houses. We got what he deserved.
But the pigs went too far.
You've got every right to defend your property.
Pénétrer chez quelqu'un.
Kick the chinny chin chins up, fellas.
Boiling someone alive hardly constitutes reasonable
Somebody is
force.
going to break the law and intrude on you.
Can't protect yourself in your own home.
A man's home is his castle.
If someone tried to blow my house down, I'd do the same.
I knew the wolf. There's no way he could have blown down those houses. He had asthma.
But the wolf had asthma. So what's the truth about the pigs' houses being blown down? Inside job.
There's no reason why those two houses, one made from straw, the other from wood, should have collapsed. Not even a healthy wolf's huff and puff could bring them down.
The three little pigs have confessed to conspiring to commit insurance fraud, framing the wolf in an attempt to cover their tracks. Their motive was financial, as they struggled to keep up with their mortgage repayments.
Guilt. I can empathise with the pigs.
I'm behind on my payments too.
How could this have happened?
I've lost everything.
you